Futuristic toys have always enchanted our collective imaginations. By nature, playing with toys encourages imagining the bounds of their usability. You could pretend your action figure is flying because you're waving it through the air. But what if you tied it to a string? What if it had a propeller to fly on its own? Would the toy actually be better if it had those features built in? Because of this aspect of pretend play, entertainment objects are constantly subject to speculative playstyles, even if the player isn't actively caught up in all the nuance. But sometimes, toy makers will bravely experiment with the boundaries of imagination. Such is the case of LEGO's Hidden Side. This is the first video in a series of 5 dedicated to analyzing this niche line of products. This first installment will outline the big picture, the history of toys to life as a product category, and the state of the technology. Subsequent installments will analyze building the sets themselves, the app-based gameplay, the accompanying web series, and close by revisiting the toys to life big picture, but instead with a context of speculating its trajectory. So, toys to life. Let's define them. Wired.com offers the following definition. These toys use a near-field communication, NFC, radio frequency identification, RFID, or image recognition data protocol to determine the individual figurine's proximity and save a player's progress data to a storage medium located within that piece. Close quote. That is functionally the most accurate definition. However, it's worth noting that it could be simplified to remove the specific forms of compatible technology. In theory, it's much simpler. They're physical toys that feature a means to connect to a virtual game. These are distinct from toys with a digital screen built into them. It's that the object itself somehow manifests digitally, as opposed to just any digital element tacked onto a physical object. Let's look at one of the earliest examples. Toys to Life, TTL, can arguably track its origin to 1987 with Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. This product was a fighter jet toy and a VHS tape. When the VHS tape is played on a television with a cathode ray tube, the toy jet can be used like a ray gun, and the RFID, radio frequency identification, tip would be registered as a means of firing at the invading enemy targets. Because this was a VHS tape, the ending always had to play out the same. That presents the challenge of building in a sense of accomplishment. So the designers at Mattel added a sensor to the jet. When this sensor was hit enough times in a playthrough, the pilot would be ejected. This is how the capacity to lose, or win by surviving, was still built into the game. This game was a major innovation at the time. But is there a chance that this toy is being given undue credit? Isn't this the equivalent to a Wii remote? Well, we can better understand Toys to Life by pointing out that the spaceship used as the game controller is also intended to have the option to play with independently of the television, whereas a Wii remote is only ever intended to be used while playing a Wii. And yet, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future still aren't always credited as the inception of the product category. This is likely because it lacks an explicitly computational element, which is fairly intrinsic to TTL's modern definition. The videos you're seeing of Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future come from the YouTube channels Vault 1541 and Space Cobra TV. So, the title of first Toys to Life product is more often given to Redbeard's Pirate Quest interactive toy. Not only did this 1999 consumer product connect to a PC via printer port, the digital game is manipulated by moving the plastic pirate figurines around the ship. The video you're seeing of Redbeard's Pirate Quest comes from the YouTube channel P. Perrineau and other resources like the Computer History Museum and eBay. Redbeard's Pirate Quest gets the credit for being the first TTL toy, likely because it became the functional basis of TTL. Toys to Life burst back onto the scene when Skylanders, released in 2011. Skylanders used the same premise as Redbeard, placing figurines on a stand that could register them, but with a clever twist. Skylander figurines could be swapped out and played interchangeably thanks to the near-field communication, NFC, tag in their base, which incentivized collecting as many figurines as possible and increased profits. This business model became the stereotypical TTL product, which was replicated by the likes of Amiibos and, most relevant to this video essay, LEGO Dimensions. The videos you're seeing come from the LEGO Dimensions YouTube channel and the Austrian Brick Fan channel. LEGO Dimensions was distinct from Skylanders and Amiibos in their subjectively superior physical toy product. Amiibos and Skylanders are figurines, which for the vast majority has no opposable features like an action figure might. Not only do LEGO figurines have opposable joints, their worlds can be curated and rebuilt to the player's content. So that made LEGO's physical element superior. And yet, there's a conceptual disconnect when the changes made to that physical toy are not represented in its digital counterpart. The Portal device could register the NFC tag, but it didn't actually scan the entire object placed upon it. So if anything, LEGO's superior customizability might have been conceptually at odds with the format. Skylanders went on to find something of a happy medium when they introduced Skylanders Swap Force. Swap Force figurines had multiple NFC tags, but the torsos that could be detached and combined with other figurines for a customized character. But by that time, the writing was already on the wall. LEGO Dimensions was last produced in 2017, and in 2019, Skylanders announced they'd be discontinued. The cancellation of these products can be traced to many factors. Those factors are succinctly summarized by Scott the Woz in his videos on the subject, linked below. Generally, it could be boiled down to neglecting the wants of an engaged fan base to instead spend disproportionate resources attempting to maximize profits through figurine sales. It all got to the point where the lacking quality of the game itself could not justify or compel players to spend any more of their budget on it. The gameplay was sparse to begin with, and as other games evolve, Skylanders allowed the less than impressive gameplay to become exponentially, glaringly lackluster. So all that history of toys to life brings us to the whole point of this video series, LEGO Hid Inside. When it was first introduced in 2019, the hyped fad of TTL had faded. So, in a smart recalibration, LEGO made a departure from the NFC-based toys and instead focused on smartphones. A player's smartphone would open the Hid Inside app, select the set they're playing with, and then use their phone's camera to register the set, then superimpose ghosts haunting the set through augmented reality technology. A quick definition of augmented reality: it's a virtual element laid over the real world. So like a Snapchat filter that gives you a funny face. Virtual reality is when everything you're seeing is virtual. Augmented reality is when the visual is based on reality. So LEGO used AR as a means of creating a toys-to-life product. This is a good point to brush on some topics that will be further explored in the narrative deep dive of part 3, but let's look at how this was narratively supported. According to Hidden Side's in-universe lore, the minifigures' cell phones are what reveal the ghostly specters they're hunting. That's really the underlying cleverness of the whole line. As a player's real phone uses technology to activate the AR, the in-universe explanation remains consistent through our proxies, aka the minifigures. Chef's kiss. A very succinct concept. Furthermore, using a smartphone's camera was a pretty ingenious triage to how LEGO Dimensions was incapable of literally scanning the object placed on it. Because the phone's camera displayed the image of the object, it was as if it was scanned. And yet, the line is currently 2 years dormant, set to officially discontinue in 2023. LEGO hasn't made the exact sales figures public, but bloggers like Millennium's Brick Corner were aware that retailers almost immediately added sales and discounts, a clear indication of disappointing numbers. But fan reception was noticeable. Generally, while the greater toy market was unimpressed with the TTL aspect itself, LEGO-specific collectors have a favorable opinion of the series for one specific reason: original intellectual property. Brickheads crave series that offer unique and collectible pieces, which is less likely in the 175,000th Harry Potter set. And they also want pieces that can be used to expand their existing setup, typically city scenes. Hidden Side offered normal building pieces to help build out a typical town, and colorful characters that could still be believed to live in a modern metro area. These factors alone compelled some brickheads to advocate buying up the sets as a demonstration to LEGO that more original IP should be introduced. But even die-hard supporters of Hidden Side are likely to maintain the awareness that the AR itself is nothing groundbreaking. Proposals for where the game design could have been better executed will be elaborated in part 5, but suffice to say the general state of AR technology has its limitations. TTL as a whole is in an era of disrepute. The hype around the novelty has dissipated, and with that, a clear-eyed understanding that gameplay still needs to be satisfactory, independent of novelty. And worse, TTL gained the reputation of paywall tactics in a similar fashion to how loot boxes are considered deeply uncouth. That aspect in particular was addressed in Hidden Side. No purchase necessary. The app can be downloaded and played without as much as even seeing the product in a store. Cleverly, if you don't have a set, you play as a ghost, haunting somebody else's set. That means you have to own a set to play as the ghost hunter, but as a money-making endeavor, it features an admirable distribution of accessibility. The average consumer knows the state of AR technology. It's cool, but it's regarded as kinda gimmicky. The lack of smooth transition into AR holds it back with a sense of clunkiness. In practice, this means that you have to go through some hoops, like downloading a specific app or purchasing a specific accessory. It's generally incompatible with the basic devices the average consumer already has access to. In a more technologically ideal world, maybe AR would be as easy as your phone just animating the AR instantly, no app download necessary. Or even more fantastically, if a phone didn't have to be held up at all, but rather holograms just populated before your eyes via projectors. That sort of seamlessness is the goal, and clearly consumer goods just aren't there yet. But that prompts the question, is AR not worth it in the meantime? Should entertainment companies just hold off on AR or TTL until the technology catches up with the average consumer's sensibilities? Practically speaking, that will always come down to consumers and executives. But conceptually, the technology will struggle to advance if it's underdeveloped. And while this video is an exhaustive analysis of a toy, AR is much bigger than playthings, offering limitless potential in education, healthcare, and social interaction. AR isn't going away. Its progress is just relative to how much is invested into it, which requires more usage, which requires more progress to entice the usage. Like, to understand what is potentially a visually nauseating experience, the AR or VR just has to be used by all different types of people in order to provide the nuanced feedback necessary to inform adjustments to color, frame rate, perspective, focus, brightness, etc., etc. So while a die-hard Hidden Side fan might be disappointed at this special series discontinuing, in all likelihood, it was never really intended to stick around long term. TTL is a fickle market that has potential to totally fail or totally reinvent the basis of its technology at a frequent pace. So, it makes sense that long-term series sustainability was never the goal. It feels more like LEGO keeping their finger on the pulse, that they are indeed dedicated to a mission of inventive play, but pragmatic enough to know that it just doesn't make sense to act as if this product would have unwavering momentum. If AR/Toys to Life makes a sudden jump in advancement, and phones are used in some new way, or wearable AR devices made more accessible, then LEGO has this intellectual property to revisit and retool in a way that seems more legitimate in some future AR landscape. And thus closes our big picture synopsis of Toys to Life relevant to LEGO's Hidden Side. Now knowing the context of Toys to Life, augmented reality game design, and LEGO's consumer community, we can dig into the specifics. Part 2 of this video will be a review of JB's Ghost Lab and discuss the physical qualities of the sets themselves. Part 3 will be a discussion of the web series that offered a narrative context to Hidden Side. Part 4 will be an analysis of the augmented reality gameplay itself. And Part 5 will close with speculative proposals of where ideas might have been improved and the trajectory of Toys to Life and AR. If you'd like to see more videos on game design, like this video to tell us you want more. Let us know your favorite Toys to Life series or figure in the comments, and subscribe to the Ognaut YouTube channel so you don't miss Part 2.